I mentioned the Georgia Bulldogs before the break, but first Billy chimes in the program. He said, Swanny, it's a little different. I listened to the podcast at 1.5 times the speed. He said the bumper music sounds so different listening to the show live. Yeah. So I'm a podcast guy, a ton of podcasts. I use the Overcast app. If I had to coach you up, if Coach Swanny were going to get into your grill about your technology needs, I think you got to go with the Overcast app for iPhone, Podcast Addict for Android. It has a better speed adjustment than the native podcast app on your iPhone. And it also skips, like, if there's a second of silence like this, it will trim that out so that you can listen to stuff much faster. So if you set it at 1.5, it might run about 1.69 because it's going to clean up any substantial breaks that may be out there. So again, that's a pretty neat aspect of the Overcast app. I can't speak to Podcast Addict. I'm not an Android guy. Let's see. My sister chimes in. She says she loves the studio. Linda said, I got to get some tiger paw, some new decor. I got some other stuff cooking, Linda. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. Yours humbly has been grinding this weekend. And I did. I don't even want to talk about it. We're going to, I was going to say, I had some internet issues that I got worked out through Spectrum, but then ended up having to buy a new router system. Something was wrong with my old router too. So I don't think we're going to get any glitches in the video. I don't think. But download speeds went to 230 megabytes, where when we were complaining about stuff, it was like 40 just by getting that new router system put in. So thumbs up to that. But anyhow, Kirby Smart spoke after Georgia's scrimmage a couple of days ago. I guess this was 21st, or was that 2 days ago? So Saturday, and just talked about everything. And one of the questions we had asked was about, Eric Gilbert and his situation. We mentioned Dominic Blaylock and everything that they're going through. But here's what Kirby Smart had to say about some of the injured guys. He said, we are hopeful to get all of those guys back soon. That is the plan with really all of the guys that are injured. We don't have an injury where there are guys out for a long amount of time. We are hopeful to get all those guys back. I mean, every one of them are day to day. I mean, some of those guys you mentioned can practice now and are practicing. Each one is a different situation. But I expect to be full tilt when Clemson comes. When it comes time to play them, we have more guys today. We don't say when it comes time to play them. Then he said, we have more guys today than we did at the last scrimmage. We are in a good position. Again, that's the word out of Athens, Georgia, as it comes down comes from Coach Kirby Smart. Again, this information available over on dogpost.com, one of our sister sites that covers the Georgia Bulldogs. They were also asked about neutral game experiences, and Kirby Smart said, we are pretty secluded. We don't get around a lot of fans. We don't get around fans. Our travel is just us. That's not going to change. Our hotel is just us. We're portioned off from the crowds and people. The biggest difference is the vaccination, and obviously that doesn't make you foolproof. He said we would never do that anyway. The same precautions that have been taken and will still be taken. The biggest precaution is vaccination. We have a large number of our guys vaccinated, and we want to protect against that. So again, I think just from the standpoint of having to travel and having to stay in a hotel and having to do those things ahead of a matchup like this one with Clemson, given all the COVID-19 expectations, he just sort of, talked about how that kind of comes into play with some of the maneuvering that they do around the facilities and around fans, etc. He's also asked about JT Daniels. And again, we've posed some questions in the past here about JT Daniels and, not necessarily whether or not he was going to be successful this season for the Bulldogs or even successful against Clemson, but I just don't think it's a huge, huge body of work. And that seems to be the case across the country when we talk about young quarterbacks or new quarterbacks, shall I say, and Daniel still feels new at Georgia, much like CJ Stroud still is new at at Ohio State, and DJ Uiagalelei is new at Clemson, and Bryce Young is new at Alabama. JT Daniels has, 4 games under his belt now at Georgia? He said JT has, for the most part, had a good rhythm with the guys. He said you can make excuses all the time, but people get injured in football. You go play with the guys that are out there. They got to throw all summer, so all the guys were out there all summer. Some of the guys were in and out during camp. He went on to say, but I don't know any team in college football that doesn't get injuries. In terms of some guys, he said in terms of some guys in and some guys out, it's based on pulls, ankles, and just being banged up. So, again, Clemson and Georgia, September the 4th, a little over 2 weeks from now, these two Titans of the Southeast, in a lot of respect, will be squaring off. And, I was thinking, I may have mentioned this earlier, at least I thought it earlier. I think this game is going to be pretty telling for both squads, just in how they're perceived perhaps the rest of the season. I mean, Clemson's slate of games the rest of the way has been called pedestrian at best. Georgia, in my opinion, doesn't have a whole lot to make up ground either, especially if they get pushed around by the Clemson Tigers, and how the Georgia fans might feel, man, if Clemson does knock them around. Like if Clemson goes into this game and just wallops the Georgia Bulldogs. And again, I'm not telling you that's going to happen. I'm presenting a scenario of what if. What if Clemson goes in there and just beats the brakes off of the Bulldog? Beats them by like 28. Beats them by, some number like that. Can you imagine what the Georgia fans will be like leaving that stadium? And look, Kirby Smart will tell you that one game doesn't, one brick doesn't build a house. One game doesn't make a season. But man, there is jealousy in Athens, Georgia, about your Clemson Tigers. Rest assured, there is jealousy. And if Clemson goes in there and, as The Rock would once say, layeth the smacketh down, Georgia fans will be hot. Final segment next.